dear listeners, and welcome to Sci-Fi, the film discussion podcast from the interzone where horror meets science fiction. My name is Liam Dunn, and I am a screenwriter, film critic, and lifelong science fiction fan.
My name is Dr. Lindsay Hallam. I am the course leader of the Film and Screen Studies degree at the University of the Arts London, who specialises in horror cinema.
And we are, in fact, partners both in life and in crime, and are die-hard film fanatics.
In this episode, we are looking back at our favourite horror, sci-fi and genre films of 2025.
In a bumper year for genre fans, we have painstakingly narrowed down all the films we saw last year and have picked 10 of the best, plus a few honourable mentions along the way.
So we will be going through our top 10 and keeping it spoiler-free. But before we get into it, just want to acknowledge that we have been on a bit of a break.
Yes.
Life has got in the way.
Force majeure.
Yes. We both have 2 full-time jobs.
2 full-time cats.
As well. So we wanted to do an end-of-year best-of list. So we're not going to do our kind of trademark deep dive discussions.
Deep.
Yes. We're not doing that today.
Wading into shallower waters, shall we say.
Yes. So we'll go through our top 10. We just have to stop ourselves from getting too into it. We'll keep it breezy and just go through. So these are the top 10 films of the year that have been released in the cinema in the UK.
Yes.
So there might be slight differences from the US and Australia and so on.
But before we get into that, we want to welcome any new listeners out there that may have joined us during our hiatus.
Yes. So I was very lucky to guest on Evolution of Horror on an episode on Blade Runner. And I mentioned you quite a few times.
Yes. I was there in spirit.
That's a film we've talked about many, many times, just in our everyday lives.
Yeah. Just whenever there's a lull in conversation, I go, so Blade Runner.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. Welcome to all our new listeners. All right. So let's get into this.
Yes. Without any more mischief, let's do it. The Sci-Fri's Top 10 of 2025.
Okay. So at number 10, we have a favourite filmmaker of both of us.
Yes,
is David Cronenberg's latest film, The Shrouds. So The Shrouds is a film about a kind of I guess like a tech billionaire called Karsh, played by Vincent Cassel, who's recently lost his wife to cancer. And he's created this tech, it's called a shroud, and it allows loved ones to be able to see the decomposing body of their loved one as they're decomposing underground. So Karsh has lost his wife, and he still keeps in contact with his wife's identical twin sister. So both the wife and the sister are played by Diane Kruger, who's excellent in the film. And the sister is kind of convinced that there's some grand conspiracy around why her sister passed away. She also has an ex-husband played by Guy Pearce, who also has all these conspiracy theories, these quite wild conspiracy theories that Karsh gets drawn into. Some hackers start hacking into the software, so the shrouds are no longer working. He's also involved in some business deal as well, but he also is being visited almost by the ghost, I guess you could say, of his wife. And you're kind of seeing her as she is at different stages, obviously, of her illness as certain things are happening to her body. And so it all becomes very complicated in kind of Cronenberg fashion. I think this film, it comes obviously from the fact that David Cronenberg quite recently lost his wife. And so it's definitely, I think, dealing a lot with ideas around grief.
Yeah.
And in interviews, he did talk about how one of the things that happens when you lose someone, it almost like you do start to get into conspiratorial thinking, like maybe something was wrong, maybe there was something going on with the doctor, maybe there was something, like trying to explain away the grief. And then also another very Cronenbergian aspect of the film is this whole idea that grief, which is, I guess, emotional state, starts to kind of physically affect you. So I think the film opens with Karsh at the dentist, and they're like, what did they say? Like the grief is almost like rotting his teeth or something like that. Yeah. So what do you think of The Shrouds?
Well, I'm glad to see Cronenberg kind of back in his wheelhouse, like doing what he does best. I think he did release Crimes of the Future a few years ago, which I feel like was kind of testing the waters because he hadn't made a film since Map to the Stars, I don't think, in 2014, and not wanting his son to take all the glory. He came back into the ring, and I think The Shrouds I like a lot more than Crimes of the Future. I feel it's a bit more like Cronenberg doing what he does best. I think it's very much, I find it akin to Videodrome. I feel like it's kind of, there's a lot of similarities, I think, in the way that it's kind of like the access to this technology just creates this kind of tumbling down into this world of conspiracies where nobody is what they seem. And I think there's even like in Videodrome, there's even a dinner scene where someone's explaining, sort of, doing the whole thing of like, you should be turning away from this. This is, blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a lot of similarities there. And he does these kind of conspiracy things so well. And also there's this whole aspect of the shrouds where you can kind of view your loved ones on an app or on the tombstone itself and things like that. It's kind of Cronenberg looking at our modern obsession with like screen life and like wanting to, like, always being on our screens and, we're getting everything fed to us. So what's the, sort of the end game of that would be we're going to be watching our loved ones decomposing in their graves.
Also that we're constantly surveilled, even in death. We can't get away from constant surveillance.
Because I think that part of the conspiracy as well is that there are people hacking into the shrouds to use it as some kind of like surveillance network. So they're like piggybacking on this technology because there's obviously signals going all over the place. And so it's and of course you spiral down and it all becomes very tied up and knotted. And I don't think you're really supposed to be able to pass what's really happening because but what he does so well is that build up of the paranoia where you never know quite what is happening. And then, and Diane Kruger is so fantastic. And they're kind of visitations, but also memories. I think, you talk a lot in your work about trauma and the way that, that breaks your reality and things. And so he's re-experiencing the death of his wife through these sort of episodes. And it's like, is she visiting him or is he just remembering? There's kind of a mix of all these different things going on. I think, it's really well done.
And I think also along that fact that there's also something, I mean, obviously, he talks a lot about that it comes from the grief of his wife. And he says that, when her coffin was being lowered, it almost like he wanted to go into the coffin with her. But I think there's also there is a slight edge to it. And that is almost like with Karsh, it almost seems to me it's like this ownership over his wife's body. So I think it's quite interesting in that, yes, maybe it is just this absolute kind of love, but it also feels like it's a possessiveness. Yeah. And the fact that, that he even it almost is like, keeping possession of his wife's body even after death.
Well, he can't move on, can he? Like this is sort of the ultimate not letting go. And that's kind of his journey, I suppose, is that he needs to, it's like that's what he really needs to do, is to actually let go of his wife once and for all, but he just can't do it.
And then there's also the fact that when she visits him, she's often naked, and then as she goes along, like she has amputations, so there's still this sexualization of her body that was already kind of falling apart before she died. I guess we are getting into too deep.
But we've already broken our promise, everybody. Sorry about that.
Yeah, definitely go have a look. It has we're just going to say it ends very abruptly. Like, what? Okay, it's just ending. Right. Yeah, so the ending is a bit odd in that it just ends.
It just stops.
But lots to talk about. Yes. And hopefully in our next season on Director Double Bills, I'm sure we're going to be doing a Cronenberg episode.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
All right, let's move on to number 9.
So number 9 is Osgood Perkins' very, very dark horror comedy, The Monkey. So The Monkey, it's based on a Stephen King story where Theo James plays twins who have this wind-up monkey that's kind of been in their lives since they were kids, that were picked up by their father. And it's this cursed object that whoever this toy comes in contact with ends up dying horribly. And we kind of catch up with one of the brothers who kind of comes back into contact with this monkey, and he has to contact his twin to kind of destroy or get rid of this monkey once and for all, because it's just this curse on their lives. But every time they show up to somewhere and the monkey shows up as somebody dies in a completely ridiculous and horrible way, kind of in a Final Destination sort of, setup and payoff situation. I think it's really, really funny and really, really gory.
Well, it's funny because we saw it a bit after, because I remember, so obviously Osgood Perkins, he's been on a roll. So not last year, in 2024, he released Longlegs, and then last year, 2025, he released The Monkey early on in the year, and then later in the year, he released Keeper. Although actually he shot Keeper before The Monkey. But anyway, so The Monkey comes out early last year, and honestly, the response from a lot of people is pretty much negative. A lot of people, like I was looking like on Letterboxd, and a lot of people that I know that saw it gave it like 2 stars. And so by the time we came to see it, I don't know if it was maybe we had lowered our expectations. So for me, it was actually surprising how funny it is. I think you probably like it more than I do. I actually still probably prefer Longlegs. I also like an earlier film that Osgood Perkins did called The Blackcoat's Daughter, or it's also known as November. And that's a real slow burn, almost minimalist horror. And Longlegs, is not just as kind of zany as The Monkey. Yeah. And I kind of prefer that. But I have to say that after hearing so much kind of negative responses to the film, by the time we came to watch it, I really enjoyed it.
I was laughing all the way through it. I was like, how is this the funniest film I've seen this year? And I think, because the more I think of, I need to see Longlegs again, but I remember being so blown away by it at the time, because there was so much hype about it, and we went and saw it like opening day, and I was just like, and then the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, I don't know about this. And I think there's some silliness in Longlegs, which in The Monkey, it's much more kind of, yes, we're having fun, and we're not taking things as seriously as he does in Longlegs. But I think Osgood Perkins still has that really dark existential vibe that all of his movies have, but in this time it's in the service of like black comedy, and I think it just that combination is wonderful, and I just thought it was like absolutely hilarious. And I had a great time with it. Really, really fun. And Theo James is great playing twins. He does a really good job. Tatiana Maslany shows up. Adam Scott shows up.
Yes, just at the beginning, very funny. Yeah.
And I just think, I had a really, really good time with this. And I just thought, we haven't seen Keeper, sadly, but I did. I just thought this was great.
All right, shall we move on? Number 8, we have Dangerous Animals. So I'm currently working on a book on Australian horror. So I'm always keeping up with any Australian horror films that are coming out. So this is the new film from Sean Byrne, who did The Loved Ones, which is such an incredible, one of my favorites of like the past kind of couple of decades. He also did The Devil's Candy, which is actually really American. Yeah. He didn't make that in Australia, which is also very, very good. And so this is about a young woman. She's like, I think she is American, and she's got the name Zephyr, and she does seem like this almost hippie-ish type of young free spirit who never settles down in one place for too long, and she's just going around Australia surfing, basically living out of a van, going from place to place. And at one point she ends up being taken captive by this serial killer played by Jai Courtney, who is pretty amazing in this film. A far cry from was it Terminator Genesis that we talked about in our Terminator ranking of the series, and did not fare well. But this, it seems like he had been kind of trying to play these kind of more straightforward action hero type of roles. And with this, it's like, no, this is who he is. Yeah. You need to kind of let him loose. And so the whole idea is that not only is he a serial killer, the way that he kills his victims is that he has this boat, and he does these boat tours where people can go and see sharks. They go underwater in like this cage, and they can see the sharks all around them. And so what he does is that he basically puts his victims out into the ocean to get eaten by sharks.
And films it.
And so it obviously the title Dangerous Animals, it's the whole thing of like, well, the dangerous animal is men. those are the most dangerous animals at all. It kind of takes the premise. There was a whole thing. I mean, I'm not on TikTok, but there was a whole thing of like asking women, would they rather be alone with a man or a bear? Or something. I wasn't quite sure what the whole deal was. And it was this whole thing of like women were saying, a lot of women were saying that they would rather be with a bear, trapped with a bear, than with a random man. And then, of course, there was pushback that every time a woman said, I'd rather be with the bear, then men would be like, why are you being so stupid, and kind of attack them and,
and prove the point.
Yes, exactly. So it's this whole thing. And it is even kind of mentioned in the film that the sharks who are, eating these victims, it's kind of not their fault. They're, that it's all being manipulated by this guy that, even though we all think of sharks as these dangerous animals, and we even grew up with shark sightings, and if someone did get killed or attacked by a shark, they would shut down beaches and sometimes, unfortunately, go out and find the shark and kill them. But the whole thing is that, it's the man behind it all is the real killer, even though he's not actually killing his victims technically. But then, it all just becomes this cat and mouse interplay between Zephyr and the serial killer whose name is Bruce. Of course, he's called Bruce. And of course, that's what they called
the shark in Jaws.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the whole thing. She's kept captive, and how's she going to escape? And so, anyway, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it was great. I think Sean Byrne's just fantastic. Like, he hasn't made a lot of movies, but when he does, they're gold. Like, they're always really, really good and really interesting. And I'd heard about this for so long, and it was so good to finally be able to watch it, and it was fantastic. Jai Courtney, I think he needs to play villains. Like, he tried to break into Hollywood, and they didn't know what to do with him, and he was even in, like, he played John McClane's son in Die Hard 5, which was really bad.
Also the worst of that series.
Yeah, the worst Die Hard.
And the worst Terminator.
And then, I mean, he was in David Ayer's Suicide Squad as Captain Boomerang, so that was him of flirting with the kind of villainous stuff, but I mean, that movie was pretty rubbish too. So it's great to see him, let loose, and I didn't know he had it in him, to be honest with you. So, it's really a classic sort of serial killer, final girl slasher sort of movie, but done in a really, really interesting way, and all on a boat. And
yet the whole like kind of survival and it's really
I mean, there are those they do like cut away to the guy who's trying to find her, right, and he ends up like getting on the boat and stuff. So it's not all on the boat, but like her experience once she's like caught there is all about how is she going to escape the situation, and so it's like it's using a lot of tropes and genre mainstay elements, but in a really interesting way.
And it's just also like you're just there and all the things that happen to her and how she gets out of it. She's a really good kind of resourceful heroine. Kind of remind me a lot of the main character from You're Next. That level of
definitely
able to kind of handle what's being thrown at her.
The serial killer getting more than he bargained for.
Yeah. So definitely check that out.
Okay, number 7, we have The Ugly Stepsister, Norwegian fairy tale remix, directed by Emily Blichfeldt. This is the Cinderella story, but told from the point of view of the quote-unquote ugly stepsister. So she is desperate to win the favor of the prince and is worried that her more attractive sister will be the one to get his attention. So she and her mother go put herself through all these rigorous body modification techniques, but they're all medieval and all really horrible and disgusting and wince-inducing, in order to fix her nose and to fix her teeth, to fix her body. And it's all this kind of one after the other, this parade of grotesque body modifications in order to turn her into the beautiful woman that she thinks the prince wants. Yeah, this is a real surprise for me. Like, I had heard a lot about this going in, and was really interested to see it. And it's such an interesting kind of spin on the Cinderella story. It kind of feels a bit like, I don't know if people out there remember Jim Henson's The Storyteller, where they did that. They were kind of doing the original versions of fairy tales when they, the Grimm versions and the Hans Christian Andersen versions, where they're all a bit dark and a bit gritty and grisly, and it kind of feels like one of those, except without the puppets.
and if it was directed by like Valerian Borovchik,
yes,
because there's also very explicit sex and scenes happening in stables and things.
Yes, that's right. So it's a lot hornier, and it's a lot with this kind of medieval body horror sort of stuff to it. I had to shut my eyes and look through my hands a few times in this film. Lindsay, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really, really love this. I mean, this would probably on my personal list be even higher. It definitely feels of a piece of this shift to like body horror being made by women. Definitely feels this connection to the substance. The whole thing with the substance, of course, is that you do all these things to yourself to fit with, in the case of the substance, very modern beauty standards. But even if you do fulfill all of that, you're going to age. Yeah. But then the ugly stepsister is all like, but even when you're young, it's still never enough. It's still not good enough. So the whole thing is the main character, the ugly stepsister, I think she's called Elvira in the film.
Yes.
And this whole thing of all the kind of young, I think they even say all the young virgins of the area are invited to the ball where the prince, I think it's Prince Julian in the film, is going to basically pick his bride. And she has all these romantic notions of who the prince is, and then of course he turns out to be an absolute shit. You have all this whole thing of like she's told that she's ugly. She has these kind of old like medieval versions of braces. She's considered overweight, but I mean, really, is she that overweight? Not really. No. But it's the whole thing of like, even by modern standards, on the internet and on social media, she'd probably be told a lot to like fix herself. And so she goes through, all the girls of the area, they have to go to like almost like a charm school, and they've all got to learn a dance. And it's almost like learning poise and etiquette and things like that, manners. And she doesn't live up to any of those standards, and Cinderella does, but then also you find out more about Cinderella and how she's having an affair with a stable boy. So it's funny, as I was watching, I'd heard that it was, really gross and body horror. And as it was going along, I was like, this is pretty full on. Like there's a nose job scene that's quite a lot. But then I was like, I could still deal with this. And then towards the end, there is a scene where actually I was like, oh God, I almost had to turn away. So we
won't spoil it.
It did, You
can all enjoy that.
Yeah, but it's just it's an interesting diet plan, which I'm pretty sure probably
existed.
Yes, has existed. Sure. I'm sure people have done what she does, possibly with the same results. And it's this whole thing of like, as she goes along, like her hair's falling out. It's almost like, trying to fit into these beauty standards. And so it's almost like she does get, she does become, very thin, and she has the nose job and everything, but also at the same time, her hair's falling out. It's this whole thing of like, the standard is just, it's an impossible ideal that you cannot attain. And also it's really fucking gross and really, really good. So I definitely would recommend, if you have the stomach for it, in every single sense, check it out. I think it's on Shudder. Moving on. Number 6 is Begonia. So the new one from Yorgos Lanthimos. So I loved Poor Things when that came out. I think also in 2024. I think it was up there with like Poor Things and The Substance were like my two favorite films of that year. And he also had Kinds of Kindness, which I think also came out 2024. Which was a anthology film. The first part I really, really loved. The other two parts I wasn't as much into. And so Begonia is about a man played by Jesse Plemons, who kind of is, I guess, is this, he kind of lives in this small town that's always like everything's run by this corporation, and the CEO of that corporation is played by Emma Stone. And Jesse Plemons, who kind of lives in this kind of rundown old house, you see in flashbacks that something kind of happened with his mum. There's also an odd relationship that he has with this cop from the area who used to be his babysitter, and there's some weird things kind of alluded to there. And he becomes obsessed with Emma Stone's character, I think she's called Michelle, and becomes convinced that she is an alien. So he abducts her in order to make her confess that she is an alien and to stop, I guess, the aliens from taking over the world.
Yeah.
And so throughout the course of the film, and he's aided by, I think it's his cousin.
Yeah.
Yes. He's kind of roped him into all this conspiracy about her and about these aliens existing on Earth. And so he subjects Michelle to these increasingly brutal interrogations, trying to get her to confess that she is an alien, although it obviously feels very clear that he's kind of nuts and he's gone down into this, conspiracies kind of coming up again. So maybe a kind of a recurring theme, which is relevant to this time. Yeah, so I know that you have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Yorgos Lanthimos, but you actually liked this film quite a bit.
I love this film. Saw it at London Film Festival, and I'll always show up for one of his films, but I always end up kind of it's hard for me to get on board sometimes. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I do like Poor Things, but when we did see that at the time, I was a bit annoyed by the beginning of it, and then once she goes off on her journeys, I thought the film settled down and I really, really liked it. But Killing of a Sacred Deer, I don't understand why everyone goes on about it. I thought The Lobster was okay. Like, but Begonia I thought was absolutely fantastic. Like, I don't know what it was, but like, I think Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone together are just incredible. Like, just absolutely brilliant playing off each other. Plemons especially is just like, he can't put a foot wrong. He just seems to, every role he does, he's just really interesting and different. He's always doing something. And the film is like a really interesting satire on sort of, the kind of conspirasphere. I mean, we talked about The Shrouds being all about conspiracy and stuff, but that's kind of, here we're getting a more of an outside looking in view at that kind of thing of people being sort of radicalized by what they read online to within their echo chambers. And
I guess it's almost like trying to explain why their life is so shit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not anything that I've done. It's all these, it's aliens, it's this, that, the other. It's like, why do I not have my, if we're looking in real life, it's like, it's immigration, it's, this, that, and the other. It's like always looking for the boogeyman to blame for life's problems. And we kind of see that his poor cousin just gets wrapped up in it all because he's got no one else in, like, there's no, they've got no other family, so he's just like, and you can see the cousin kind of doesn't quite buy into it, but he's kind of like, what choice do I have? But you can just see him starting to like get on board with it because it's just like he's just constantly being exposed to it by Plemons' character, and it's just and so you just this kind of toxic environment in this house, and it's really sad. These characters are kind of really sad, but they're not. When Lanthimos doesn't make fun of them though. He kind of makes you want to kind of feel for them and bring you into it, even though he's kind of at a bit of a remove.
And you can kind of understand how Jesse Plemons his character has got into this from kind of these flashbacks and things that have obviously happened in his life. And it is, and I think also Emma Stone is really, really good. And she is totally the like epitome of that kind of corporate, like the way she speaks, the jargon that she uses. Like there's one scene where she's at work and it's obvious that she's just recently come in and they're trying to change the culture and, people don't have to stay, after, 5 o'clock. But then the way she's like, also trying to twist that, but people still can, and maybe they want to do the best, and there's this whole thing of trying, I guess, almost exploiting people, exploiting people's labor. So it's in some ways, as I was watching, I was like, maybe she's not an alien, but she is part of this awful corporation that is exploiting everyone, and particularly in this town. And also, it's quite funny, when she's in this situation with Jesse Plemons' character, and like the way she's still using that speak, like she's like, let's have a dialogue, about this. And she's trying to use all that jargon to trying to get around him and to try and convince him to let her go and that she's not an alien. And so there is also, it's quite complex.
Yes.
But then ultimately, I think, as with a lot of Yorgos Lanthimos' films, ultimately pretty misanthropic. That people just, there's not a lot of love for just people and humanity in general in this film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which we won't spoil anything, but it does, the way it all comes together at the end is what tipped this over the edge for me of being one of my favorites of the year.
Because you're also a misanthrope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, we're going to now head into our top 5.
Yep.
And at number 5, we have another Stephen King adaptation, and that is The Long Walk. The Long Walk is about a dystopian future where all young men are invited to do the Long Walk, which is a non-stop walking marathon, I suppose you could say, that is televised on live TV that every young man, when he comes of age, comes to do, because if you survive the Long Walk, if you make it to the end, you can basically get whatever you want and have your dreams come true. But the problem is that as you walk, if you fall below 4 miles an hour, you are killed by the attending military escort led by the Major, played by an absolutely brilliant Mark Hamill. And we follow these characters as they try to walk and complete this task. Especially we have Ray, played by Cooper Hoffman, and Peter, played by the ever astounding David Johnson. This is probably my biggest surprise of the year, because this is directed by Francis Lawrence, he of The Hunger Games, Red Sparrow, and Constantine, amongst...
And didn't he do the I Am Legend?
And I Am Legend, which is rubbish, and various music videos and whatnot. So I don't have a very high opinion of Francis Lawrence. I've never seen The Hunger Games, okay, fine, but every film I see of his I don't really like. And I was like, now he's doing The Long Walk, which is a book that I actually had read to me by my teacher in year 7, which is very strange. But anyway, he used to read it to the class, not just me personally, but the whole class. Like every Friday he'd read a few more pages or what have you. And I just thought, finally they've made a film of The Long Walk. Oh, Francis Lawrence. Okay, this is probably not going to be very good. And then I started to hear from people whose opinion I hold in high regard that, no, this is actually really good. So we went and watched it, and holy shit, this is a blinder. Like, this is an absolutely brilliant film. Hands down. Like, it's just fantastic. I mean, if you haven't seen it, you should just go see it. All the performances by the young men are terrific, and like I said, especially David Johnson, he's a British actor. He was in Rye Lane, which was terrific. He was in Alien Romulus as the android. He was so good in that. And then in this, he's even better. I mean, like, his career is going to be massive. Like, I just can't wait to see the next thing he does. But yeah, it's just it's a coming of age film. It's a horror film. It's a sci-fi film. It's a Vietnam parable. It's just great, Lindsay.
Yeah. So I believe that the original story, it was, like you say, a parable of the Vietnam War. This whole idea, I guess almost every generation, we have to feed our young men into kind of the meat grinder, send them out there. And it's almost this whole idea of proving their manhood by doing that every generation. You've got to go out there and fight your war.
It's kind of like society calls for that. In order to keep
and it's
going.
Almost like a sacrifice that you need this to sacrifice the sacrifice of young men, almost, I guess, to keep society going or something.
Yeah.
And it definitely also feels relevant to today. One of the things that struck me while I was watching the film, so it doesn't shy away from the actual, like, how would you do this? So the whole idea is that as they're walking, they have to keep a pace, and if they start to slow down, they get a few warnings, and then on the third warning they're shot. Yeah. So you have, and it actually does go into, like, what happens when you need to go to the toilet? Yeah. What happens if you have the shits? Yeah. What happens if you get a stone in your shoe? Yeah. And you know, so it doesn't shy away from the actual kind of grisly realities of how you would actually walk just continuously for, I guess, what ends up being, you know, several days. Yeah. And non-stop, like, you don't get to stop to rest or sleep. No. And I think that's one of the surprises for me, is that it doesn't pull its punches. Like, I kind of thought, there'll be some cutaways, there'll be some, you know, horrified looks when something's happening. But no, it just shows you everything, like the grim reality of this situation. And you're there with them. You feel like you're on the walk. And it's so immersive and so well done. But then what also kind of struck me about the film is that, as I was saying, the relevance to today, well, we have, I guess, the manosphere of, this whole thing of like, and you have Mark Hamill's character who's basically kind of saying like, sack up, man up.
Yeah.
Like this is how great men are forged is through doing this ridiculous thing. And, we have all this, I guess, messaging to young men about what being a man is. And a lot of it is very, to use the word, toxic. But what I really loved about this film is that you see, these boys, basically boys, being put through this awful thing and how they relate to each other. And so the whole thing of like, you've got to do this, you've got to man up. This is what being a man is. But actually like just the not just the camaraderie and friendship, but love that they have for each other. They want to look after it. Like they end up forging relationships with each other and caring for each other. Loving each other. And so I kind of liked that it was this whole thing of this portrayal of, boys, young men, and how, they're just kind of good, decent people. Yeah. And there's really kind of touching relationships, especially the one that develops between David Johnson and Cooper Hoffman. Just real, like, absolute kind of brotherhood. And so it just kind of struck me that it was nice to see this portrayal of young men that actually kind of counteracts a lot of this awful messaging. And it almost was like, when I was thinking about it, it's almost like a reverse Lord of the Flies, that you get all these young boys together and they don't just descend into kind of savagery. I mean, not to say that there aren't some of the boys in there, and there is one boy in particular who is pretty horrible, and the way he acts towards some of the other boys is really horrible. But then you also see that the guilt of what he's done also starts to kind of eat away at him, and he starts to kind of change and to think about why was I like that to that person, because they seemed a bit different. And so it's this whole idea of the reversal. They don't descend into savagery, but actually it's the society that is trying to make them that way. So it's almost like this whole thing of like, naturally are they actually not just these savage beasts, that there's actually more to them. So I quite liked that aspect of the film and what it was kind of exploring.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good representation of kind of the way society tries to make. Yeah, you're talking about the manosphere and all of that. That society seems to be set up to push men into these roles, but these young characters are kind of fighting against that. And it's actually, in a world that's telling you to be mean and violent, being kind is the ultimate act of rebellion.
Yeah,
which is kind of what we're feeling a bit right now, where social media is like. Is creating these toxic environments for people that's turning us into Jesse Plemonses.
And the whole thing is that in The Long Walk is that it's all being filmed.
Not him personally.
It's all being filmed as entertainment, and so it's also this whole thing. It's this television show. The film, the ending of the film, which I won't get into, I do believe it's different to the book.
They
and
updated it.
The ending again I think is another quite abrupt ending, and I'm not quite sure. I think I need to watch it again to really kind of work through what it was saying about the ending in relation to everything else that had come before that. Obviously, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I think it would be good to kind of watch it again and to work through a bit more what that ending was. I'll leave it there.
What do we have next?
Okay. Well, we've got some more Australian horror because some good stuff's coming out of Australia, I got to say. So we have the new film from the Philippou brothers called Bring Her Back. And so this is about a brother and sister. They're actually foster brother and sister, if I remember correctly. And so the boy, I think, is probably he's a kind of a teenager. And the sister is vision impaired, and their father has died, and so they're put into their stepbrother and sister. That's what it is. The stepbrother and sister. The father has died. And so they're put into the foster care system, and they're fostered by a woman called Laura, played by Sally Hawkins in an incredible performance. And it turns out that Laura has also lost someone in her family. She lost her daughter, and she actually had worked in the foster care system, and she now seems obsessed with these videos of this strange occult ritual, which could possibly help to bring her daughter back from the dead. And she thinks she can do that using the young girl. I think her name's Piper in the film. And Piper is portrayed by Sora Wong, who actually is vision impaired. So it's not someone playing it. It's actually so it's always good to see that you're not just getting someone playing it, that you actually can find an actor who can do the role with that lived experience. And so it's this increasingly really brutal film, because also in the foster house is this other foster child who it seems that Laura has been doing some of these strange rituals on this kid, and he's obviously acting all very kind of possessed. And so it becomes a case of the young boy, Andy, who realizes basically Laura's plan for his sister and is trying to stop her. But of course, the whole thing is that he's had incidents in his past where he's acted out and got into trouble. And so it's this whole thing of like, no one believes them. No one believes them that Laura, who seemingly is this very lovely woman who's taking them in from, the kindness of her heart. And he's, this young, kid who basically, why should we believe you? And you just get, and it just becomes really, really brutal. It's really, really like full on confronting and quite upsetting in the kind of violence of the film. So how did you go with Bring Her Back?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Philippi brothers have a real knack for creating these really like dark, horrific images and situations that really get you deep in the core. Like they just feel so, like, I want to say alien, but like they feel like so otherworldly, I should say, maybe that they could really happen as well. Like it kind of has this weird feeling about it that just is really really unsettling
and visceral
and so there's all of that stuff. And so their previous film is it Talk to Me,
yep,
which has a lot kind of, it's a bit more overt. In Bring Her Back, it kind of feels it's all sort of in the background because it's on this. There's this video that she watches,
and which is fucked up.
Yeah, really fucked up. And then there's the young boy who's kind of possessed, who you kind of see it manifested in. And then there's there's this shed that's always locked out the back. So there are glimpses, but it's never like fully revealed throughout the most of the film. And you just get Sally Hawkins just being absolutely incredible as this woman who's obviously grieving. Like it's another film. There's kind of a few films on this list that it's all about people suffering through grief and the choices that they make in order to kind of lighten that grief or to get back to. It's like Karsh in The Shrouds, like a character who can't let go and has to hold on by any means necessary, but by like ruining the lives of these other people because she just wants to bring her daughter back to life. And it's also this element of the system of the foster care system and how that it's kind of kids. It's designed to help kids like who don't have families, but yet it's also geared against them because they're the ones that are never believed at first. So it's kind of a bit of an exploration of that. It's a really, really interesting film, and really it's great to see them on the back have this big hit and then immediately come out with another film. And it's like they just seem to have so many ideas that they just want to get out there. It's an interesting 1-2 punch, their two films that they've had.
Yeah, I mean, both about possession. I think that there is definitely a thing with possession being a common trope in a lot of horror films, and especially ones coming from Australia, which I need to figure out because I'm going to write about it in my book at some point. There's going to be a section on all this kind of possession narratives in Australian horror films. And it's also just so interesting that the directors, these brothers, they seem like these goofy guys and they're still so young, and then their films are just really like serious, full-on horror, upsetting stuff. I know that they I think some a young child in their family passed away, and so it's also coming from this place of grief, a bit like The Shrouds again. And it's this, and you have the character of Laura. She's doing the absolute most monstrous things, and she's terrorizing these children. And yet there's this weird understanding because it is the fact that she's lost her child, which is probably just the worst thing ever. And she just wants her child back. And she's got to do anything she can.
She disappeared inside her grief.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one.
So up to number 3, which is a film we've already done an episode on, so you can go back and listen to that. But we have chosen 28 Years Later, the legacy sequel to 28 Days Later, where we have the returning Danny Boyle as director and Alex Garland as writer, picking up not straight after the events of the previous film, but decades after, where we find England has been cordoned off and quarantined from the rest of the world. So the rest of the world has gone on as normal, but England's been stuck in this time warp since the events of 28 Days Later. And we have Jamie, played by Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and his 12-year-old son Spike, played by Alfie Williams, who live on an isolated island just off the mainland that's connected by a land bridge which comes and goes with the tide. When Jamie's wife Isla, played by Jodie Comer, who suffers from an illness, Spike and Jamie venture to the mainland to find a doctor, where Jamie is confronted by the realities of what is happening with infected running around everywhere and just danger lurking around every corner. Then they go to and they find a doctor, Ian Kelson, played by the brilliant Ralph Fiennes, who's a recluse living out there with the infected, building what he calls a bone temple to memorialize the dead. This, I mean, like I said, we've done an episode on this already, so you can probably go back and listen to that if you want. But this is just like, what an amazing comeback. Like, not a comeback, but, like they... Return. I mean, you think, they're going to make this another 28 Days Later film, but it's great to see the original creators come back and just knock it out of the park. And
I think do something quite differently. Yeah. So, they're still doing the whole digital thing, which, they're using, that was all shot on an iPhone, but they were making all these amazing rigs and things. But, the thing with 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later was that it was such a, visceral, like full-on zombie infected film. Yeah. Where, it was just really kind of going at this kind of barreling pace the whole time. And this film, 28 years later, it takes this totally different tack in that I was not expecting to basically cry at one point. Yeah. It's very emotional. You've got this child protagonist, which when I first heard that was the case, I was like, oh, no, this is no good. And it has this folk horror almost aspect to it. It feels very much like a post-Brexit film about kind of English or British isolationism. So it has that kind of, exploring some of that. Going again, grief. Yeah, seems to play a huge role in the film. The relationship between the young boy and his mother, and then also Ralph Fiennes, so incredibly good. His character,
he's a reverse Kurtz. He's kind of like Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, but a nice one.
Yes, he's set up to be this figure of that you shouldn't trust, or there's something he's a bit odd. He's gone mad, and the whole aspects about fatherhood and how he's also coming to terms with really kind of his own father's failings. It's so good.
It's very good.
And I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, because the film ends on a kind of cliffhanger that's going to lead straight into the sequel, The Bone Temple, which is going to be directed by Nia DaCosta, but written by Alex Garland as well, where we get to see more of a character called Jimmy, played by
Jack O'Connell,
whose character kind of bookends the first film. So I'm very much looking forward to how they do it in the next one. Just what a great film. So moving on to number 2.
All right. So number 2 is the other film that we did one of our Sci-Fi Bites about, which is Zach Cregger's Weapons. So honestly, I would maybe switch 2 and 3, but I can't deny the impact that Weapons had on this year, and how important it is that you do have this original film. It isn't a sequel. It isn't part of a franchise. This really kind of original horror that is not only really fucking good, but actually becomes this mega hit. So it shows that there's this appetite for this original material.
Yeah.
So the film is about a class of children who at 2:17 a.m. one night, all of them just get up out of their beds and run out of their houses and into the night, all in this strange pose, and they just disappear. And it's about the reverberations, the effect that this has on the community, that suddenly all these children are lost. And so a lot of the blame around what happens is focused on the teacher of this class, because it's only the pupils in her class except for one. So there's only this one boy in the class who hasn't disappeared, and we start to find out why that is. But because it's her class, everyone in the community, everyone in like the town is pointing fingers at her saying, what did you do? Why did all of your pupils go missing? And it's almost this thing of like, is she some kind of strange witch? Someone paints witch on her car. So she's being completely ostracized by everyone. And this is a whole thing, again, it's almost this conspiratorial thing of like all these people, something has happened, something really monumental and traumatic has happened. How do we deal with it? How do we find answers? Yeah. Who is to blame? Who did this? And so the film itself is set out in different chapters. So you're following different characters. So you start off following Justine, the teacher, and then you're following, I think, one of the cops.
One of the dads.
So, one of the main people who is kind of persecuting Justine or, spreading rumors and things is played by Josh Brolin. I think his name's Matthew. He's one of the fathers of one of the missing children. So he's just desperate to find out what's happened.
And you also follow one of the kid who's the only one who didn't disappear, and you find out kind of what's happened with him.
And then you end up with finding eventually what or who is behind it all.
Yes.
I'm sure most people have seen the film, but we're not going to spoil it. But please do check out our episode where we go deep into Weapons.
Yeah, and that's why I think I wanted it at number 2 with 28 Years Later at number 3, because 28 Years Later is a sequel and Weapons isn't. So I think we need to shout out when these brand new ideas come out and just take everybody by storm. I love Weapons and the way it's kind of Magnolia, the horror Magnolia, because it kind of it shows you the same events through the different perspectives of different characters, and then it's kind of like it shows you all these crazy things, and then it almost rewinds to kind of show you how that happened. It's like it kind of it plays all these magic tricks and then kind of shows you the magic trick and how it was done in a way. So like I think I had a really good time with this film.
Yeah, and it's getting some awards buzz. It's interesting also to see that you've got the character of Amy Madigan. I mean, it's going to become quite clear that she kind of is at the center of all of this. And she does, her character is Aunt Gladys, that's it. And she does have this very interesting look. She is this kind of strange older woman, and we talk about her and some of my initial reservations about her. It's in a keeping with like Sally Hawkins's character in Bring Her Back. You have there's this unfortunate thing, I guess, of these older women, almost these monstrous figures. Maybe you have more understanding of Laura in Bring Her Back. In Weapons, she just is this kind of over the top creation, and kind of amazing in that the way that Amy Madigan just kind of goes for it, and with a great payoff towards the end. I think it's definitely shown that Zach Kroger is really interesting filmmaker who's doing some great things with the horror genre, and really I think a lot of the things about a lot of just films in general at the moment, especially the films that are making an impact with audiences, is almost these tonal shifts and genre shifts and surprise. And it's this whole thing of, how do you get people into the cinema?
Yeah.
Is you've got to give them something to really get them talking. And like everyone wants to know, what is it about this, what is it that happens in this film? Why is everyone talking about it? And just the amazing kind of discourse that happened around the film, just getting people interested into horror and also getting back into the cinemas to see it as well. So
sure.
You need to kind of give it props for that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Which takes us to
our number one. Do you want to say the title together?
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Sinners.
Like there was any doubt.
Yes. I mean, following on from a lot of what we were just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Anyway, Sinners is, before we start talking about that, let's just a quick recap of the plot. Sinners is obviously directed by Ryan Coogler, set in the 1930s American South, where we have the Smokestack twins, both played by Michael B. Jordan, who return to their hometown in Mississippi from Chicago, where they've made a lot of money working in organized crime, and they've come to use that money to open up their very own juke joint. So they spend the day putting together all the people and the resources they need to open. So they find their cousin, is it? Sammy, who's played by Miles Caton, who is a guitar player. He's called Preacher Boy because his dad is the local preacher, and they get him to do the music along with Delroy Lindo, who is a busking bluesman who they promise to pay in booze in order to get him along to also perform. They get all their, they go to the local store, they get all their provisions, they get all their alcohol ready to go. But meanwhile, in the background, there is a mysterious man named Remick, Jack O'Connell again, who is a vampire who is making his way across the county recruiting people into the fold. By recruiting, I mean turning them into vampires. And then when Sammy plays his blues in the juke joint, he seems to remove the veils of time and space and culture, and in this amazing sequence where past, present, and future all seem to meld together, showing that the blues is the origin, the wellspring of all popular culture, really, and especially of music in the modern day and throughout time, really. And his opening of the veils attracts Remick and his vampires to the juke joint, where the film becomes kind of a From Dusk Till Dawn Southern Gothic standoff, where the vampires are trying to get into the barn, and the Smokestack twins and their friends and family, including Mary, played by Haley Steinfeld, are having to fight off these vampires and try and survive the night. That's a lot of stuff going on.
It's so fucking good.
We watched it again. I got the 4K for Christmas, and we watched it on New Year's. Yes, thank you. Watched it on New Year's Eve, and it was like, still the best film we saw last year, hands down. Shot in IMAX and in like multiple formats. It's a musical, horror, Southern Gothic action drama. It's got everything.
Yeah, I still remember when we first saw it. We saw it at the IMAX.
Yes.
And it was a preview screening, and Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson, who does the music,
it's the best music too. Oh my God, the music in this movie.
And so it was just this buzz, but also it came out around April of last year, and like the first few months of the year, it was like, nothing really good has really nothing that's really has really come out that's really like blown us away. And then that's it. And then that just seems to kind of it almost feels like the year doesn't begin until Sinners arrives.
That's right.
And it's just such an amazing film, though. So a lot of the From Dusk Till Dawn comparison is actually somewhat out in that it really takes its time before it kicks into like vampire film gear. So you really get this setup, and you really get to know the characters. So you get the Smokestack twins, and they've come back to the town where they've grown up. They've been away in Chicago, and obviously they've got involved in organized crime, and they've come back to kind of set themselves up. And you see these, relationships that they've had, that they've left behind, and that they're coming back to. So you have Smoke, who is with Haley Steinfeld.
Yes, I think so.
Yes. So Smoke is the more kind of flamboyant kind of charmer of the two. And he has had this, relationship with Mary.
Yeah.
Mary, played by Hailey Steinfeld, who's mixed race. So she's mixed heritage. She passes for white. So it's this whole thing that she and Smoke can't really be together because it would be seen as a black man with a white woman. Then you've got Stack, who's the more quieter of the two, and he was, or maybe still is, married to Wunmi Masaku's character, whose name is Ruthie. Yeah, Ruthie. Yeah. And they'd had a child together and the child has died. And so there's obviously, again, grief, things about grief. And so obviously he's, the heartbreak of devastating loss of the child, he's kind of gone away. But you can still see that there's this real connection between him and Ruthie. It doesn't seem like they're completely divorced from each other. So it's all setting up all these relationships and how the town works. Like you've got the Chinese couple who run a store, but they're just considered part of this community. And then you finally get to the night. So it pretty much almost takes place over the course of a day and a night. Yeah. They arrive in the town, they're setting up. And so you have, once you get to the kind of vampire stuff, you're really just so grounded with all of these characters. And then you have, the character of the vampire who's Irish. And I know Ryan Coogler has talked a lot about, this whole thing of that the Irish were almost not considered white back in the day. But then so there's this kind of this aspect of Irish culture. But also the fact that he's obviously hiding the fact that he's Irish from the two people that he kind of recruits in vampires who you see are part of the Ku Klux Klan. So there's also this threat as they're setting up that I think they're even told that, you got to be careful that the Klan don't really take notice of you because they might not like what you're doing, this business that you're setting up. But then also it's the whole thing of the vampire is drawn to this place, like you say, by the music. And it's almost this whole idea of cultural appropriation. And I think even at one point he even says, I want your songs, I want your stories. Yeah. So it's just and then that sequence of the musical sequence where it just, I still remember when we saw that in IMAX, I was my jaw was on the floor. I just couldn't believe. Same. And it's just all about, we live in a time where people, where it is this whole thing of it is just about, what job you have and what money you can make. And it's this whole thing of the place of culture, the place of music, the place of the arts, and how important it is to us as human beings and to our souls is being kind of sidelined, marginalized. And this whole idea that, we can just get AI to do that. No AI could ever come up with this film. So I just think it's just such an amazing film, just how it just transports you. It's also really raunchy, sexy. The centering of female pleasure in the film, I guess, has to do with kind of the kind of oral nature and vampires and biting. So the whole thing in the film as well. Michael B. Jordan is amazing. Yeah. I almost completely forget that it's one person playing two roles. Same. And just seamlessly the way that, I guess the special effects of the two of them. It's seamless. Yeah. And just the technical achievement of the film, the use of the different formats, how it, even when we're watching it on Blu-ray, the aspect ratio was changing. Yeah, it's just such an incredible film. And Delroy Lindo is and Delta Slim is the character's name. I couldn't remember that before, but he does this monologue in the car, which I think there's some critics association awarded him best monologue of the year. I don't know if they just invented that because they could give him an award, but holy shit. He's just incredible. Everybody is so good in this movie. Miles Caton as Sammy, his voice. Where did they find him? I've never seen him before. I remember that he learnt guitar. Yeah, that's amazing. For the film. That's amazing. And it's an incredible film. And you can just watch it over and over again and just get more and more out of it. There's I remember when we saw it at the IMAX, there is a kind of post-credit sequence which I thought at the time went a bit too far. I thought it was let's just end the film. Why are we watching more of it? But then I thought, no, let Coogler cook. He's just throwing everything at this film. It's his film. Great. I love it. I'm not going to argue with it. But then watching it again, I'm just I love this bit actually. It's great. And I'm glad it's here and that he did
he did do that little extra bit. So it's like, yeah, it just grows more and more every time you watch it.
And again, it's an original story, not using already existing IP. Mm-hmm. And Kugler has talked about that, it is a lot about the music and has to do with an uncle that he had. So it's something like deeply personal. And so it's this whole amazing thing about how genre, it can be this vehicle for, exploring things about race, about culture, about American history, and also is this deeply personal thing to the filmmaker. Mm-hmm. It's and yet also it's just really entertaining. It's just everything
you want
that horror can be. Yeah. I think also it's funny when we saw the film, we saw it with some colleagues of mine, and like one of my colleagues, like their partner, they don't like horror but they really love the film. So I think it's something that if you have someone who says that they don't like horror, you could totally get them to watch this film.
Gateway film.
Yes, yeah. I think it's just so good.
So that's our top 10 of the year. I'm pretty happy with that list. I mean, it's been a great year for film all round, especially if you're into horror, sci-fi and genre. There's been some excellent films that have also broken into the mainstream and are even getting Oscar buzz. Like, I'm all for Sinners getting Best Picture. Like, let's do this. But there are also a few that didn't make the list because there's just so many that we saw that we loved. Do you want to give a few honourable mentions of some of the films that we saw this year that we also really enjoyed?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things about our top 10 list, just looking at it, I mean, especially like our 1, 2, 3, like Sinners, Weapons, 28 Years Later, even The Long Walk, this is quite mainstream studio films. And so it was a really good year, I think, for kind of mainstream studio horror, because honestly, I usually do not go in for like the big studio. Like we had a Conjuring film this year. I didn't even bother seeing it. And that kind of, mainstream horror is not really my bag. I normally go kind of further afield. But it was good to see that there was these mainstream horror films that were great, that were doing big box office. But in terms of like more independent films, so we didn't talk about any films that we saw at festivals that haven't since got this big widespread release here in the UK. So if you go back to our Fright Fest episode, we mentioned films like Redux,
which would be on my list.
Dog of God, Transcending Dimensions, which were definitely in the top of what we saw this in 2025, but they haven't. Hopefully this year they'll get the big release. So actually, a couple of films that we saw at Fright Fest in 2024 got releases in 2025, and they're definitely kind of your independently much lower budget made films. So two films that I saw at Fright Fest in 2024 both came out on Shudder and both get the highest recommend. It's Elric Kane's The Dead Thing, which is a film about a young woman who's kind of uses a lot of apps to hook up with lots of guys. She meets this guy, seems to have this connection, and then suddenly he disappears, and it seems like he's obviously not what he appears to be. Maybe he is this, I don't know, spirit, or I even think that maybe he's somehow conjured by the algorithm. I think the film is a lot about like kind of a relationship with technology, and definitely this young woman who seems to be striving for connection with people but is mostly doing it through sex. It's a really, really great kind of almost like erotic horror, really high recommend. That's on Shudder. Another one I saw at Fright Fest in 2024 is called Dead Mail. It's a really interesting film in that it's set in the 1980s, and it's about this man, this older kind of middle-aged man who works in a dead letter office where it's like letters that come through the postal service that don't have any actual address, and it seems to be this note from someone who's been kidnapped. And we see at the beginning of the film, that's this other kind of older guy, middle-aged guy that's been kidnapped, and it's about the guy in the dead letter office basically trying to figure out where this letter is. This letter real, and where it's come from. He ends up actually meeting the guy who kidnapped the other guy. It has to do with like synthesizers. I don't know. It's a really weird. It's like, and it actually ends up being a lot about like male, especially middle-aged kind of male loneliness and kind of failed dreams. The main character, I think it's Jasper. He does seem like this really kind of lonely character, and he's just has got nothing to do, so he's trying to find this out, and he meets this other man who's involved, and it's just a really odd little film, but definitely high recommend. And it doesn't have, no one in the film is really quite well known, and it just has this really interesting film with these really interesting people. It's cast really well, these interesting kind of middle-aged faces. I just really liked it. And then another indie film from New Zealand is The Rule of Jenny Penn, which is about it's set in a nursing home, and it's about a judge played by Jeffrey Rush, who ends up, I guess he has like dementia, and he's put in this nursing home, and in this nursing home there's John Lithgow, who has this strange kind of doll puppet called Jenny Penn, and it turns out that John Lithgow, he seemingly also has like dementia, but he's really just this awful bully who's abusing different people in the retirement home. And this one is really, for some reason, I get more kind of squeamish or feel more unsettled about getting older than almost that I do about dying. So things about old people, and especially like this whole thing of all these people in this old age home, and just all these awful things happening to them, and it's the whole thing again with Bring Her Back. In this case, it's older person with dementia. Well, of course, no one's going to believe you. It just I thought those are all kind of great indie horror films that you should seek out, and actually all on Shudder.
And the other thing about Jenny Penn is that it's like Lithgow's not like killing people; he's just manipulating them and abusing them. It's not like.
And just terrorizing them.
And just being just like psychologically terrorizing people. It's very strange, very strange.
And really disturbing. I actually found it really disturbing.
I'm going to actually go back to the studio releases because I just wanted to give a shout out to, so Dan Trachtenberg released 2 Predator films last year. He did Predator Badlands and Killer of Killers, which is like an animated anthology. I just really like what he's done with this franchise, and I think it's obviously like a way to, because I see like with the newer Ghostbusters films, it's like it's this way to like to say, remember this that you loved as a kid, like to adults, people our age, but you can't really bring your young child to go see the original Predator because it's so violent. And so like here's one that you can bring your kid to. But the thing is, it's not just pandering to, it's actually like, well, how do we make a really fun, exciting movie without it being like super violent? And I think with Badlands, they went the kind of Terminator 2 route in a way of like, well, we've got to kind of cut down on the gore and the kind of darkness and up the kind of adventure aspect. And by kind of taking this Predator character who's not, he's kind of the runt of the tribe, and sending him to this dangerous planet that he has to survive, and he kind of adapts to the planet in order to like to continue to complete his journey, and he meets this android played by Elle Fanning. I just think it was really, really good, and really it was really well thought through as a piece of kind of action cinema that's relying on incident and character moments more than just kind of like violence and action, but the action is informed by the characters. And I just thought it was and The Killer of Killers, which went straight to streaming, is a nice little accompaniment where it's kind of a more deeper dive into the kind of this lore and the mythology of the Predator race and things like that. I thought it was a really good time. And just like, and what I really enjoyed about it was being in the cinema and seeing right in front of me was like a 13, 14-year-old boy with his dad just pumping the air with his fist every time something cool happened. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's the juice. Like that's what, these sorts of films can do, is that this kid's now going to like be a Predator fan, and as he grows up, he'll watch all the films and then the Alien films, and we've got another one on in the genre camp here, I think. And then another sci-fi one which was really good last year was Companion. which is Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher, which I thought was really fun and kind of in the Zach Cregger mode. I thought it's that the kind of a film that like Weapons sort of presents you with information and then kind of rewinds and shows you from another point of view or from the other direction, like what's really going on. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything here because it's done quite quickly, but Sophie Thatcher is like the girlfriend of Jack Quaid, and then it's quickly revealed that she's actually like a sex bot or like a girlfriend robot that's been programmed to be the perfect partner. And the kind of joke or the gag of the film is that she comes to realize this. And they have these and what's really funny is they have these safety protocols, but the fact that you can actually switch these off, I find really funny, because why would they allow that in a product? But anyway, she's able to switch off the safety protocols and kind of go rogue, and she kind of fights back against Jack Quaid and all these other humans at this getaway that she's at. And I think it's another one of those things where it's like it's really thought through well. Like, well, let's set up the situation. Like, what would actually happen here, and what are the kind of environmental things that we can take advantage of in order to tell a really exciting story. I just think it was really smartly done.
And in the same vein, you had Together, which is also about a couple, but it's about this body horror. It's about a couple who have moved away from the city to this kind of smaller town. They go walking in a forest and they seem to come across this mysterious force, that in this kind of pit they get trapped fall down into this pit, and then overnight something seems to happen to them, and then as they manage to escape and go back to their normal lives, these weird things start happening. In particular, like their bodies just start to almost stick together and meld together at different points, and it's all obviously a metaphor about kind of codependency, and it's this whole thing of like, should they still be together, or is it about them maybe they need to kind of separate from each other a bit more, or maybe come to terms with where they should be in their relationship. And it's acted by a real life couple, Dave Franco and Alison Brie. I thought it was really quite well done.
It's good. It was good.
It's a very kind of obvious metaphor, but I also kind of like that it is part of this shift where we're getting these more body horror films.
Absolutely.
And another one, and more on kind of a sci-fi vein, that was just a bit of a surprise, was actually Freaky Tales, an anthology film that has Pedro Pascal alongside a lot of other people. It's all these kind of interconnected stories set in
the Bay Area. It's about the Bay Area in the 80s.
Yes. But so there's all these kind of interconnected stories, but there also is this kind of strange kind of sci-fi supernatural element running through it all. And also you get to see Nazis get punched.
Yes.
So there's a lot of, there would seem to be a lot of underlying themes in the film about, I guess, like racism and about rising up and coming together against white supremacy in the film, which I found quite nice. But that was definitely a surprise that I thought was really good. And then I think another couple of honourable mentions, a couple of Japanese films. I just want to give a shout out. I think it should be available on Netflix, is Dead Talent Society. It's more a comedy. It's about a young woman who dies and then comes back as a ghost. But it's this whole thing of like, there are certain ghosts that become famous. And it's all about having good haunting abilities or talent. And it's just a very fun little horror comedy.
And then, of course, there's Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cloud, which it's always a reason to celebrate when Kiyoshi Kurosawa has a film out. And this is kind of like an action crime film in a way.
But then towards the end, it almost has this strange...
Of course, because he's always got to go there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But it's kind of about this guy who sells stuff online. It's all about kind of online commerce and like, when people selling things illegally or defective products and things, and kind of how, and the backlash from customers and from your audience when things go wrong, but kind of taken to the most extreme ends. It's very interesting, kind of about sort of modern day capitalism in the internet age. He hates the internet, this guy, doesn't he?
Yeah. And hustle culture and all of that. Yeah, definitely one to seek out if it passed you by. We're just going to quickly, we won't go too much into, just a couple of re-releases that have come out over the past year, classic films that we discovered for the first time. They've also got some recent re-releases. So we got to see for Halloween, we actually went to a cinema and they were showing the new kind of restoration of the Giallo film, The House with Laughing Windows, which was excellent. It's Giallo-esque, but it's interesting in that it's like this rural setting. Yeah, won't go much into that, but yeah, that was really, really great. Also, Mermaid Legend, Japanese film, revenge film, so amazingly good.
They finally released Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, so all 4 and a bit hours of both volumes of Kill Bill together as one movie with an intermission. The quickest 4 and a bit hours you'll ever spend in the cinema, because those films just motor along. Just incredible, like, I can't believe we finally got to watch it all as one package. Like that's the way to watch it, I think.
Yeah, it just reminds me of early Tarantino. I think is my favorite Tarantino, and ignore all the shit he's saying now, and just go back to when he was one of the best.
Yeah. And then what I thought was my favorite time in the cinema last year, like pretty much, well, one of them anyway, was we got to go to the great cinema here, the Nickel, and see Night of the Juggler, which is a 70s film which seemed lost to time, which got a re-release
from Radiance Films.
Where we find Josh Brolin's dad, James Brolin, as a man whose daughter gets kidnapped, and he must basically claw his way across New York City in order to find her and save her from the kidnapper. This film feels genuinely unsafe when you watch it. Like the stunt work and the action set pieces in this film, like nobody got permission to do it. They were, it's all seems like guerrilla filmmaking, like stealing shots and scenes across New York City in the 70s. It's an absolute banger. Like, it's just crazy. And James Brolin is so good in it. And it's just an amazing film that I always heard about and people rave about, and I thought I'd never get to see. And now it's come out on Blu-ray. It's been having screenings. It is terrific.
Yeah. All right. And then I think finally we're just going to shout out some of the TV. So we watch a lot of TV as well as films.
Actually, making this list, I couldn't believe how much we'd watched.
I know. Well, yeah. But I think we're on the same page that Alien Earth was the best TV show of the year.
Alien Earth for sure. Unbelievable. I mean, and I'm like a bit like Yorgos Lanthimos. I have a funny relationship with Noah Hawley. Like, he does the Fargo TV series, which I'm a bit we watched them, but I'm a bit ambivalent about them. And he did Legion, which I wasn't all that big on.
It looked so great, but then it just kind of came a bit boring.
And then so I was like, oh, please be good. And Alien Earth was just so good. The needle drops at the end of every episode were great.
They were like tailor-made for that's teenage Liam
absolutely.
there in those needle drops at the end.
Yeah. Bloody hell. And then there's like all the performances were great, all the retro-futurist aesthetic that's taken from the original Alien, and also filling in the gaps and kind of filling out that universe a bit more, and it all kind of made sense. It's almost like when the Watchmen TV series came out. It's like, here's how to like build on something and not have it feel derivative. Yeah, it was just absolutely brilliant. I need to watch it again, actually.
Well, I was just thinking, it's like, it was really great in that it was exploring almost kind of a lot of philosophical things about, the future of humanity, this idea of consciousness. If you put a consciousness into another body, into a synthetically made body, is that new body still that same person? So it's the ideas of consciousness and identity, and this idea of a soul, our responsibility to our creations is very Frankensteinian. It also, this contemporary like commentary. You've got this kind of tech bro, this young guy who's just
moving fast and breaking things.
Yes, yeah. And then also at the same time, it's an alien film. You've got, some great alien action.
And what happens is there's this ship that's got the xenomorph, but they've been going around the galaxy gathering all these different specimens. So they create these brand new aliens for the show, which stand up with the xenomorph as some of the most terrifying fucking things I've ever seen. The eye midge, like the little eye with the octopus legs. What a creation, like what a little shit that thing is.
Yeah.
It's so like, and it's like they really thought about like what the most alien organisms we can think of, and it's like they've really like they smashed it, I think.
Yeah. And then I think we'll just very quickly go through. I mean, Pluribus came out towards the end of the year, and it's really interesting, like what it's saying about this whole idea that it's like this hive mind but only a few people haven't been assimilated. And so it's interesting in that it's kind of posing these questions like, they've solved like wars and
poverty and injustice and everything, but everybody's the same and flattened out, and there's no more art, there's no more cinema, there's no more music, there's no more innovation. It's just kind of existing for the sake of existing. That people don't even eat proper food anymore, so there's no enjoyment of food and drink. There's just everyone's connected, so there's no individuality. So it's like what are the compromises that we're willing to make for world peace, essentially, or for the betterment of society? And what is the betterment of society? It's a subjective term, really. It's fascinating. I can't wait to see what more they do with it. It
felt like it was just getting going, and then suddenly it ended. And also at the center of it all, we have Ray Seahorn from Better Call Saul as Carol, who is one of the few people who hasn't been assimilated and who's just desperately trying to get things back to the way they were. All right, season 2 of Andor is another one.
It was really. I mean, it's such a shame that we're only getting 2 seasons of that show, and it kind of felt. Unfortunately, it felt a little rushed towards the end, like they had to just get it to the point where it meets up with Rogue One. But the Gilroy brothers just completely, like, just taking Star Wars and making it into this, like, political thriller, like the kind of...
Life under fascism.
Yeah, and it's like, against, like, there's so much Star Wars stuff which is just kind of like, oh, remember this, remember that, isn't this fun? And they're actually like, no, let's dig in and see, like, what is life like under fascism, and what are the lives like of these people? And it's like they really, like, it's some of the best. It's a Star Wars, but it's some of the best sci-fi I've seen. It was so good, and it's such a shame we're not going to get any more of it.
Yeah. Then we've got It, Welcome to Derry.
Yeah.
Which was I mean, at first, the first couple of episodes, I was like, I mean, it had a great cold open, and like the first episode kind of ended with almost like getting rid of a lot of people that I thought were going to be our main characters, and then as it went along, I was like, this is all right, and then suddenly I think around like episode 4 or 5, I just realized, no, this is really, really good.
Yeah, I was having a good time.
Yeah, and again, like Watchmen, you mentioned before, it's interesting how it was kind of retaking this known story. It's a prequel to the book and the films that were set in the 1980s. And then I think, like Watchmen, also kind of starting to explore ideas around race and what it's like to be black in America, especially within this kind of 60s setting. And I think Cord Jefferson, who did American Fiction, he also seemed to be involved. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Cord Jefferson.
And he was involved in Watchmen as well.
Yes,
so that makes a lot of sense.
So I think there's definitely connections being made to Watchmen. Yeah, very good.
We could just go on and on, couldn't we? Severance as well had a new season this past year, which like opened up the world even more. And I did worry that maybe it was a one-trick pony, but I think they managed to pull that off and explore a lot more of kind of what, like the weird company behind everything, and the kind of cult that's running things seemingly, like, and they just created more questions. So they've kind of kept the mystery alive with that, I think, and the kind of the way the innies and the outies work, and who can you trust in a world like that. Yeah, and also with some of the best like production design in TV. And yeah, there was a lot of stuff that we
can just kind of list. I mean, there was the second season of The Last of Us, which I felt was slightly disappointing. But I kind of also a lot of hate that series got, which is completely unfounded.
Yeah, I mean, there was more Apple TV. Apple TV has the best sci-fi going. I mean, there was a new season of Foundation. I never got into the books as a kid, but I'm really liking the series. And Murderbot, I did enjoy quite a bit. I mean, it wasn't like the best thing ever, but I did enjoy that.
And it's got Alexander Skarsgård
in it. Gen V, I think, was like, I actually started liking this show more than The Boys. Like, I don't know how, but like the second season of Gen V I thought was really, really good. good. There's a new Fallout that just started, which actually technically started last year, so we're getting into that at the moment. Haunted Hotel was a great surprise for us.
Animated comedy, horror comedy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
On
If you
Netflix.
want just like a fun little half-hour show, definitely check that out if you haven't already. All right.
Yeah.
So that's it. That was 2025.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Please let us know what your top 10 of the year was. What did we miss?
Yeah, what don't you agree with in our list?
Yes.
What would you do?
So you can find us on social media, particularly on Instagram at SciFrightsPod. Please do like and rate and subscribe and follow to our podcast. Please leave us reviews and please tell people that we exist.
And here's to a 2026 of more horror and sci-fi goodness.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.